And today, Ray Young is with us. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Good, good. Who did you bring with you today?
I brought Clarence, who's been one of our guests and somebody who's doing a lot of work in his life to get out of the situation he's in right now.
Wow, well, welcome, Clarence. Good to have you here.
Thank you, John.
How did you get in this mess? What happened to you?
The price of the housing went up quite substantially after COVID. Everybody moved here, and I make $21 an hour, but I pay $800 a month health insurance for me and two little girls. They don't live with me. They live with their mother, but I still got to have health insurance plus child support on top of it. That's one entire paycheck gone. It's tough to have two homes because I still buy all this, stuff for my girls. And that's, I couldn't afford the rent no more.
So you basically just got overwhelmed by the cost of living.
Yeah, and the rent kept going up. I started at $850. 3 years later, it's at $1,400.
Yeah.
So I couldn't afford it. So I didn't have much of an option.
Were you working 40 hours a week at that point?
I was, but during the winter, I'm unemployed. I work in the building industry.
I see.
So you got some months of unemployment. Well, that just puts your take-home pay. Well, you take child support out of that, that even drops that down to where I was making less than $1,000 a month. So try and afford a place on that, So it's a lot of the economy.
I think a lot of displaced dads, and I'll call it that because that's really what you are, a displaced dad. You want to do the right thing for your kids, but the dollars just aren't there. But they come out before anything else does.
Priorities.
Yeah.
My bills are paid is why I'm homeless. I want to drop my insurance down, but you only can do that one time a year. So you're kind of in pickle.
So how bad did it get for you before you got to the warming center?
Pretty bad. I've been homeless for almost 18 months now. I did not come to the center till October, end of October, November. So I spent all last winter out I got a 98 Chevy Silverado, rolling mobile home.
So you basically lived in your truck.
I did. And not this last winter, the winter before was pretty tough.
Yeah, it was awful cold that winter.
Yeah.
We kind of got by a little easier this year.
Yep, and this year I decided to come to the warming center.
Yeah, he came in. We were talking about it a little bit earlier, too, and just, the night, he woke up in his truck and it had broke down and his windows are part down and he's covered in snow and it's below zero out there. And he thought, I don't want to freeze to death in my truck. Yeah. And so he reached out for our services.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now that you have at least gotten out of the cold and you've been working with Ray and with Sean and everybody
Britta down there.
And tell me how the process has worked for you, your roadmap to get out.
It's been... I did not have patience before it, but now I was taught patience. It's tough with the subsidized housing because I'm going that route. I'm working through the CAP program, the Community Action Partnership, and I got grants from them, but I had to fill that application out twice. They denied the first time, so I don't take no as and real well. I take it as a maybe. So I went about it differently, and this is Sean down at the center, part of the roadmap things. He's there to help. He's got the knowledge of CAP because he just worked there, So it really helped. Britta's she's one of the greatest things down there. She keeps me well focused. She's helping me on different parts of every other part of life besides housing. That's Sean, but. It took me 6 months now, but I go have a place here probably in a couple weeks.
Wow, in a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you, first of all, were you able to get back to work?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I even got a better job coming up, making a little bit more money, but at $22.50, it's still gonna be tough.
It's going to be tough.
And that's where I qualify for subsidies because my little girls will be there on weekends and part of the summer and stuff. So they're on the application. Mm-hmm. If I did not have my children on those applications, I wouldn't. I make too much to get anything, not enough to have anything.
You know, that happens to a lot of people. That happens to a lot of women who are working, and they wind up not working because the cost of childcare is so great that, you know, it's almost like you're paying them to go to work. Precisely. And that's kind of where you were.
Yeah, and that's exactly. You go to work. All my bills are paid. You know, health insurance, $800 a month. That's awful steep. You know, you know, and I pay my bills. That's why I'm homeless. You know, and the stigma around homelessness and stuff, the shame and stuff of it. It took me half of those 18 months to finally admit to myself I was homeless. So the stigma, it's tough in this valley.
Yeah.
One thing that's pretty impressive about Clarence is many nights he sleeps in his truck because we've been filling up, and he said, you know what, I have a truck. Some people don't have a truck. Even when he's doing that, he's in there every week working with Britta, working with Sean. He continues to try to improve his life when a lot of people would have just given up, and it's pretty inspiring to me.
So you got it so the windows go up on your truck now.
Yeah, it's running a lot better than it did last winter. So, you know, and they offer so much at the warming center if people utilize it, and I really utilized it. I would not be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for the warming center. And I like to know how many other dads and moms are one paycheck away from me.
Yeah. So you followed the roadmap.
Yep.
And you're on your way. You figure within a couple of weeks you're going to have your own place.
Yep.
And you'll be working.
Yeah. And, you know, I've always worked I always had an income coming in. You know, I pull unemployment because I work all through, you know, I get the hours in during the summer, but it's hard to put money away when there ain't much money to put away.
Yeah.
You know, there's school clothes and Christmases, and my little girls don't deserve to suffer because the world's the way it is.
So how are you going to handle it this year when, the work slows down?
I got me a job that's full-time year-round.
Oh, okay.
You know,
so we're not going to have that problem.
Yeah. It took me a little bit to get to a good job like this. You know, I tried with the employer I have now, which I'm swapping, but it's seasonal. You know, you make good money during the summer, but for 5 months of the year, it's kind of tough to pull less than $1,000 a month.
Yeah. Boy, and we all know the cost of living is just horrendous right now, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. Talk with us, Ray, a little bit about some of the programs that Clarence was able to jump into.
You know, through our roadmap program, and like he was talking about Sean and his past experience with Community Action Partnership as a housing director, I believe. You know, he's been able to jump in and really dive in with CAP to keep being persistent, and I believe he is the next person on the list for an open apartment here at one of these apartment complexes. You know, and jumping in with like the job service and Job Corps and, you know, the medical services that'll come into us. It's cool because he has utilized every single thing we throw at him. We have a lot of guests that do that. In fact, I think now once Clarence gets housed here, I think we're going to be over 30. We just had another person go into treatment last week and some more housing, and we have about 3 or 4 more that are in the same position. They're just waiting on the next one to open.
Ray, after being out in the elements for over a year, did you have any health issues you had to deal with?
No, I keep pretty healthy. You know,
well, that's the lucky thing.
I make do in my truck. I got a little cook stove and stuff, so I might be homeless, but I'm not destitute. And with Ray and their programs, there's still a lot of legwork for me to do for any of us to do. I killed a small force of the applications I had to fill out for to be denied, made too much, for this part of the subsidized. Then you got your tax subsidized that I fall within that range. That's pretty low range, but so I'll still be one paycheck away.
Yeah, and he's right on 100% right there. I mean, we offer those services and Clarence utilize it, but I'll tell you what, the credit really goes to Clarence here because he's put in legwork and he has not taken no for an answer. I think he accepted the challenge every time he heard it, and he just keeps pushing forward, and it's starting to pay off now, and it's pretty cool to watch.
This has been quite a conversation. Thank you for being so upfront with us about your situation. We'll kind of tie a ribbon on this conversation right after this. And we have the program director from the Warming Center, Ray Young, with us. And Clarence, you've been hearing his story and how he got into his situation and how he is climbing his way out. Ray, do you find that kind of a thing to be pretty typical?
You know, it kind of has been this year with some of our guests. We still have guests that just aren't ready for housing. They have, illnesses and stuff that need taken care of. And we're getting them the other resources, but the ones that are willing and ready, which is quite a few, they are utilizing our resources. And something Clarence said I've just been thinking about is when he asked how many other moms and dads are out there. They're one paycheck away. I can tell you my wife and I both work full time. I have a business in the summer, and we do well, and we still have to sit down and budget pretty tight. It's just expensive to live here.
It is. It is. It's expensive to live anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, we used to think that we could come here and live for a lot less. That's not the case anymore.
Not anymore. I was born and raised here, and it is definitely not that way anymore.
Kind of my way too. Again, Clarence, thank you for being so honest with us and so upfront. It's congratulations on what you have done to dig yourself out of a situation that would have killed a lot of people.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, we're very proud of him.
And Ray, thank you guys for all the work that you're doing. This is just one of those things that one of these days maybe we'll wake up and we won't have homeless people here anymore.
We're sure working hard to at least make that number go way down.